Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome back to 7th Street.
Yes, I am here, the demon who possesses your soul.
Oh boy, you know, reviews of old 50s horror and sci-fi movies don't really do that well on this channel. They really just don't pull in the views. I guess I ought to listen to my audience and stop doing them. Nah.
I really don't know how I'm gonna review this one. Daughter of Horror is a 1953 black and white avant-garde ultra-low budget chiller with no on-screen dialogue and multiple versions of the film floating around in the world, partially due to the fact that it was banned a number of times before its final wide release. It is, for lack of a better term, utterly nutty bananas cray-cray.
This is my world. Let me lead you into it. Let me take you into the mind of a woman who is mad. You may not recognize some things in this world, and the faces will look strange to you, for this is a place where there is no love, no hope. In the pulsing, throbbing world of the insane mind, where only nightmares are real.
The movie opens with a young woman who awakens from a nightmare in a run-down, dingy LA motel. She jolts out of bed, then walks across the room to an old dresser, where she finds a switchblade. The woman then decides to leave into the neon-lit night. I guess I should mention that although there is no on-screen dialogue, in this version of the movie, there is a creepy voiceover that never shuts the heck up.
Come. Let me take you by the arm and show you the bed of evil you sprang from. Let me take you back to when you were a little girl. Let me show you your father.
Don't worry, the voice speaks in these vague euphemisms the entire movie. The freaked out woman then encounters a dwarf selling newspapers on a street corner with a bold headline, "Mysterious Stabbing." Okay, kinda weird to find that sort of thing amusing. Later in a dark alleyway, a pimp with a pencil-thin mustache and very sharply dressed approaches her and somehow convinces her to escort herself out to a rich old man chauffeured around in a limousine. The portly rich man here is actually played by actor Bruno Vasoda, who any Roger Corman fan should recognize as he seems to turn up in all the great early Roger Corman sci-fi films. As they cruise through the night, the woman thinks back to her tragic youth and her abusive father, whom she had to stab to death with a switchblade after he shot and killed her cheating whore of a mother.
Like a hammer at your brain, tormenting you, haunting you, forcing you to think.
The rich man takes her to a number of bars and nightclubs, and then finally to his elegant high-rise apartment. He first ignores her as he's a fatty and would rather eat KFC. When the woman tempts him and he advances on her, she stabs him with a switchblade, then pushing the dying fatty out an upper-story window. As he topples to his death, he grabs a pendant around the woman's neck, and it snaps off as he plummets. The crazed woman races out of the building and into the streets, confronting the man's corpse. The dead man's hand still grasps the pendant, forcing her to saw it off with the knife. Holy crap!
Run, daughter of horror, run from your crime. But behind you, the policeman with the face of your father, the face of your first victim.
As she runs down an alleyway, the pimp from earlier suddenly grabs her and pulls her into a nightclub. Our lead then, frankly, begins enjoying herself. She even gets up on stage, shaking her little tail feather. That is until Fatty with the severed hand arrives. The nightclub crowd then advances on her, encircling her, pointing and laughing maniacally.
Now all all the images of horror, the demons of your mind crowd in on you to destroy you. Guilty. 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 Guilty.
Soon, she passes out and rewakens alone in the dingy hotel room. She goes to a dresser and searches for clues. In the top drawer, she discovers her broken pendant, still clutched in the fingers of the severed hand. Well, that was a short film. Oh yeah, it only clocks in at 54 minutes. Oh boy-de boy, there's a lot to unpack here. This really isn't just a movie that you can describe. It's one that you really just need to see for yourself. The movie is obviously low budget, sort of like a student film, which really adds to its bizarre nature. The film is like one big long nightmare sequence, and surprise, surprise, that's exactly where the concept came from. Producer John Parker conceived this film's script after his secretary, Adrienne Barrett, told him of a nightmare she had the night before. Parker decided to cast Barrett as the role of the lead woman, and then sought after actor Bruno Vasoda to work for a day on the film. Initially, the movie was supposed to be a short, but after a day or two of filming, Parker was so pleased with the project, he decided to push it out to a feature length. The original version was completed in 1953 with the title Dementia. This version had absolutely no dialogue, just some sound effects and a soundtrack. It was briefly regionally released that year in New York City, but it was quickly banned by the New York State Film Board, who claimed the film was, quote, inhuman, indecent, and gruesome. Sure.
Look, it's your latest victim. Now everyone knows there is no escape.
The movie was then re-edited and re-released in 1957 with a bombastic voiceover narration and a fancy new title, Daughter of Horror, where it was still banned in the UK. This version of the movie farted around the drive-in circuit, from what I can tell, until it very shortly fell into complete obscurity. Honestly, the only reason anyone remembers this movie at all is because it's the movie that's playing in the theater when the Blob strikes in 1958's The Blob.
Now all the images of horror, the demons of your mind crowd in on you to destroy you.
Whether you watch the original version or the Daughter of Horror version with the voiceover really changes the experience. I honestly prefer the version with the voiceover. It's sorta cheesy, you know, the way I like my 50s horror movies. This film obviously deals with the subconscious mind and trauma caused by child abuse. It's Freudian, it's surreal, it's all fudged up. It's sorta, dare I say it, ahead of its time. In a weird way, this movie reminds me of another nightmarish avant-garde art film that you all might know. A little film called Eraserhead?
Wait, stick with me on this one.
We as the audience are witnesses to the unraveling mind of the protagonist. Like Eraserhead, it's difficult to tell where the madness starts and where reality ends. Or, indeed, if any of what we're seeing on screen is real at all. It's hard to get any sense of what's occurring from our character's point of view. Are these events really happening to her? Is she dreaming? Is she hallucinating? The viewer is left a little off balance while watching this movie, and I think that's exactly what the director was aiming for. This one is super worth checking out if you're a fan of surrealistic, nonsensical, David Lynchy crap.
Like I said, if you're a fan of David Lynchy horror films, or just a good 50s chiller, go ahead and check out Daughter of Horror. Now, before I let you go, I would like to always remind you, please consider liking and subscribing to this channel. We are getting so close to 1,000 subscribers. Well, that's all I have for you. Until next time.
Marked. Marked forever. daughter of horror